Good morning, brothers and sisters. Have you shouted for joy yet? Let us shout for joy that we have united with the Lord forever. We are living in one spirit with Him, living with one spirit in the river of love. Let us make a joyful noise to Him that we are joined with the Lord heart to heart. The union of the Lord with us is the greatest and the closest, the union of vitality and interaction. The Bible mentions the Lord abides in us, and so is His words in us, which means He will talk to us unceasingly. He longs for us to know Him more. Hence, it is the life in the river of love. We can have the inflow of love with the Lord always. Shall we sing a hymn and worship? It's in Hymnal 2, Song 144. Return to the fountain.
In you I've confidence. No more in haste I run. My perfect providence. Your grace is sufficient. You are waiting to bless. In you dwells all the fullness. Gladly shall I return to your bosom and rest. Drink from the salvation fount. Enjoy your bountiful blessings, and lift my head above the foes. Rejoice, believe your wings.
I hope you have time to draw near the Lord personally, or you can sing another song to worship Him. Let's come before Him face to face. You can stop the recording and we'll read the Bible when you're done. May the Lord bless you. Brothers and sisters, we will read in Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 1 to verse 26. I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure, and behold, this also was vanity. I said of laughter, it is foolishness, and of mirth, what does it accomplish? I search in my heart how to cheer my flesh with wine, my heart yet guiding me with wisdom, and how to lay hold of folly, until I might see what it was good for the sons of man that they should do under heaven all the days of their lives. I made myself great works. I built myself houses. I plant myself vineyards. I make myself gardens and parks. I plant trees in them of all kinds of fruit. I make myself pools of water, to water the forests where trees were grown. I bought male servants and female servants, and had servants born in my house. I also had great possessions of herbs and flocks, above all who were before me in Jerusalem. I also gathered silver and gold for myself, and the treasure of kings and of the province. I gave myself male and female singers, and the delights of the sons of men, musical instruments of all sorts. So I was great, and increased more than all who were before me in Jerusalem. My wisdom also remained with me. Whatever my eyes desire, I didn't keep from them. I didn't withhold my heart from any joy. For my heart rejoiced because of all my labor, and this was my portion from all my labor. Then I looked at all the works that my hands had worked, and at the labor that I had labored to do. And behold, All was vanity and a tracing after wind, and there was no profit under the sun. I told myself to consider wisdom, madness, and folly. For what can the king's successor do? Just that which has been done long ago. Then I saw that wisdom excels folly, as far as light excels darkness. The wise man's eyes are in his head, and the fool walks in darkness. And yet I perceive that one event happens to them all. Then I said to my heart, as it happens to the fool, so will it happen even to me. And why was I then more wise? Then I said to my heart that this also is vanity. For of the wise man, even as of the fool, there is no memory forever, since in the days to come all will have been long forgotten. In fact, the wise man must die just like the fool. As I hate life, because the work that is worked under the sun was grievous to me. For all is vanity and a tracing after wind. I hate all my labor in which I labored under the sun, because I must leave it to the man who comes after me. Who knows whether he will be a wise man or a fool? Yet he will have rule over all my labor in which I have labored, and in which I have shown myself wise under the sun. This also is vanity. Therefore I began to cause my heart to despair concerning all the labor in which I had labored under the sun. For there is a man whose labor is with wisdom, with knowledge, and with skillfulness. Yet he will leave it for his portion to a man who has not labored for it. This also is vanity and a great evil. For what does a man have of all his labor and of the striving of his heart, in which he labors under the sun? For all his days are sorrows, and his travail is grief. Yes, even in the night his heart takes no rest. This also is vanity. There is nothing better for man than he should eat and drink, and make his soul enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw, that it is from the hand of God. For who can eat, or who can have enjoyment more than I? For to the man who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy, but to the sinner he gives travail, together and heaped up, that he may give to him who pleases God. This also is vanity and a tracing after wind. First of all, let me share with you my first impression when reading this chapter. Well, Solomon said many times the word I. You can count them. There are more than 40 times. And it also mentions that he did a lot of things for himself. If you count them all, there are more than 10 times that he did for himself. If you compare it with chapter 1, the word I is less than 10 times. However, there are more than 40 times in this chapter. In fact, it is a reminder to us that life under the sun is selfish, self-centered, and without direction. Even if there is a direction, there is only one, and that is for yourself. In fact, what's like under the sun? That is to care for yourself. If we have the reverse thinking, what is above the sun? It is not for ourselves, but for the Lord. For the word of God upon us, and this kind of living is a life above the sun. In fact, both believers and unbelievers have to work and eat. However, if we live above the sun, we work and eat for God. There is a big difference between us and the unbelievers. We shall live for God. Verse 24 is my favorite. It says, "There is nothing better for man than that he should eat and drink, and make his soul enjoy good in his labor." It's really a good thing for a man to eat, to work, and find enjoyment in his labor. Yet Solomon adds one statement. This also I saw, that it is from the hand of God. Truly, this is the key point, that Solomon saw that everything is from God. The phrase "nothing better" means the best in Cantonese. The phrase is nothing better, appears several times in Ecclesiastes, but you'll find that when it comes to the beast, all is what you enjoy and get relate to God. It is from the hand of God, or it is the gift of God, or this will go with him in his toil through the days of his life that God has given him. In other words, the best in the world is from God. I don't know if you agree with this statement. It would be good if you do. Solomon agreed, and he knew very well that all the good things come from God. But we know that Solomon was a man in the Old Testament and had not read the New Testament. But he coincided with what is said in the letter of James, chapter 1, verse 17. James says, "Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights." You see how boastful James was. He didn't enjoy the things that Solomon enjoyed. He didn't enjoy all the good things in the world. However, he came to a conclusion that all good things and the best come from God. Solomon was very different. He could get whatever he liked to see and whatever he liked to get. He was experienced and went through many things. So you can see by reading this chapter. And he had experienced something that many people haven't experienced before. When Solomon wrote Ecclesiastes, he was the king of Israel for 40 years. The nation of Israel was prosperous, and the people lived abundantly during his kingship. He should be very content outwardly. In fact, he wasn't. You see in Ecclesiastes that his experience told us that his heart was not satisfied for his living under the sun. He lived a life for himself, not for God. After he had experienced so much, he wrote Ecclesiastes and drew conclusions for us. One of them is that the best is from God. In fact, when Solomon wrote Ecclesiastes, he also mentioned relationship with God is very important. He pointed out man can find the meaning of life through fearing God and obeying his commandments only. He also gave us the warning not to pursue vanity and hollow things, because these are temporary and will not give us true satisfaction and happiness. I believe we all agree with Solomon was so experienced, whom we may not be able to compare with. But we don't have to experience everything which Solomon had gone through before we can draw a conclusion. Solomon told us his experience and gave us the summary of his experience through Ecclesiastes. This is a saying in Chinese, which says, "An old man's sayings are seldom untrue." It also makes sense, but the most important is whom we listen to, and who is the most important to listen to. Of course, we shall listen to God, and God speaks to us through Ecclesiastes written by Solomon. We must not ignore it, otherwise we will suffer. I have another inspiration through this chapter which I didn't notice in the past. As I said earlier, there are a lot of I in this chapter, and it also tells us that there were many major projects that Solomon did for himself, including building houses, planting vineyards, making gardens and parks, making pools, buying slaves, and getting many concubines. Of course, this chapter shares his life experience, which had now vanity and a tracing after wind. I felt that it was not only like this when reading it. In fact, chapter 2, or I can say even the whole book of Ecclesiastes, was a self-reflection of Solomon. I felt Solomon was sorry for God for what he had done, and it was a waste of time and life. He regretted wasting his life like that, which was meaningless and worthless under the sun. As I read this chapter, I also found that there are 3 words that appear frequently, and these 3 words are "this also was," or "this also is," and they appear 7 times in this chapter. Let's have a look. These 7 times are "this also was vanity," "this also is vanity," "this also is vanity," This also is vanity. This also is vanity. This also I saw, that it is from the hand of God. This also is vanity. The only time you find a different result is in verse 24. This also I saw is from the hand of God. And every time he said this also is, a result can be found. What is the result? It's vanity. It's a tracing after wind. It's meaningless. I guess after Solomon experienced everything, he self-reflect and regret, and he didn't want people after him to follow in his footsteps. Therefore he wrote Ecclesiastes, and as a preacher, he told people what he had experienced and the final conclusion. Brothers and sisters, Solomon returned to God and thanked God in the end, and he valued his relationship with God. Therefore, every Christian should read Ecclesiastes, because if you don't listen to the words of an old man, you will suffer. God wants to tell us the truth through this experienced old man. The last chapter of Ecclesiastes mentioned that we shall live above the sun and remember our Creator. If I have to divide this chapter into sessions, I will divide it into 4. Solomon verified his life by enjoyment from verse 1 to verse 11, and he realized that all his enjoyment was vanity in the end. I won't talk about what he enjoyed. If you read verse 1 through verse 11, you will realize that he enjoyed everything he wanted. And his conclusion was hedonism does not satisfy a person, and that seeking pleasure under the sun gains nothing. Let's read the conclusion of Solomon in verse 11. Then I looked at all the works that my hands had worked, and at the labor that I had labored to do. And behold, all was vanity and a tracing after wind, and there was no profit under the sun. In fact, the conclusion of Solomon was already stated by his father David. In Psalm 16, the Psalm of David, it says, "Their sorrows shall be multiplied who give gifts to another God." If Solomon had listened to David, he wouldn't have lost for so long. Brothers and sisters, there is no God under the sun. Those who do not regard God as God, and those who run after another God will not be happy, and their sorrows will multiply. Solomon experienced that being away from God under the sun gained nothing. In this session, from verse 1 to verse 11, there is one verse which attracted me, and that is verse 3. Solomon said, "I search in my heart how to cheer my flesh with wine, my heart yet guiding me with wisdom." What interests me is that Solomon said that his heart is still guiding him with wisdom. That means he remained watchful. First of all, I want to say that I doubt whether Solomon could do it. Could he still stay alert? Could his heart still be guided by wisdom? I don't think so. He couldn't. And the wisdom he talked about was just the wisdom of man. He didn't rely on God. You see what he did for himself afterwards? It was a waste of time, money, and life. I can even be said that what he did was intemperate. You see, he had many concubines. He lived a life of feasting, drunkenness, and fornication. To be honest, it was really a life of sin that gained nothing under the sun. Brothers and sisters, we should not be self-righteous and overestimate like Solomon, thinking that he could get hold of himself and not be tempted by his own wisdom and intelligence. Brothers and sisters, we shall stay above the sun, which is to trust in God, rely on Him, and listen to Him in order to overcome temptation, have real satisfaction, and not waste our lives. Just as Paul said in the first letter to Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12, "Therefore let him who thinks he stands be careful that he doesn't fall." I have a feeling that Solomon always thought that he was smart and had the wisdom given to him by God, so he didn't have to rely on God. He thought he could stand firm, would not fall, would not get lost, would not lose control, but he failed. The reason for his failure was not because he was not smart enough, but he did not believe and did not rely on God. And I feel that in verse 3, Solomon said, "My heart yet guiding me with wisdom." That was the beginning of his failure. He relied on himself and not on God under the sun. Brothers and sisters, in fact, Solomon was a lesson for us. We have to rely on God, and we should not be like Solomon, thinking that we're smart. Actually, it doesn't matter how bad or weak we are. As long as we relied on the risen Lord, we can overcome temptation by relying on Him. We can only hide in the shelter of the Most High and trust in Him and never fall. Let's come back to the second section of this chapter, from verse 12 to verse 17. Since life cannot be satisfied by material enjoyment, we can go deeper to compare wisdom and foolishness. The conclusion of Solomon was wisdom is better than foolish, just as light is better than darkness. It's true that wisdom and foolishness are indeed different, but Solomon's conclusion was not to ask us to pursue wisdom and knowledge. His conclusion is whether wisdom and foolishness are the same. There is no difference. All is vanity and a tracing after wind. For the wise or the foolish will face the same destiny, which is death. When Solomon saw his future ending and his death, he lamented and said, "And why was I then more wise?" This also is vanity. He had the Greek sign for wisdom and a new evaluation of it. The end of the wise and the fool is the same. There is no remembrance and there is no difference between the two. This made him disgusted with life. He felt that all the toils under the sun were an irritation to him. In the end, no one can escape death. Life is vanity. You see, even if the one has the faults, if he doesn't have God, what he knows will bring him grief. Brothers and sisters, we need to know the true knowledge. The Lord Jesus is the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and He is the Word of God to us. Brothers and sisters, we need to understand that not only we are created by God, but we are also created for God. If we understand that we are created for God, then we know the value of our life. This is the highest wisdom. Brothers and sisters, the knowledge we need to know is to know God, to know the love of God, to know His intention for us. Brothers and sisters, let's shout for joy that we have the highest purpose of creation. First of all, we were created to be Abba's dear child in order for us to enjoy the father-son relationship. Second, it is important to realize that we are created to be the Lord's love. Our appearance and existence are not by chance, but intentional. God created us on purpose. We shall shout for joy. Brothers and sisters, we have the highest value in life and we are created for God. This is the wisdom that we should have, the knowledge that we should have. This is the wisdom and knowledge that we should have. This wisdom and knowledge will bring us the most abundant and meaningful life. We have the direction of life with this wisdom and knowledge. Brothers and sisters, we live for God. We were created for Him. Therefore, we shall love Him, to draw close to Him. We have the deepest relationship with Him. These are the purpose of God's creation. Brothers and sisters, drawing near to God is the most valuable meaning of life. Due to the limited time, I have to go through the third and the fourth sessions of this chapter quickly. The third session is from verse 18 to verse 23. And Solomon drew another conclusion. Not only wisdom and knowledge are not our help and give us the meaning of life, but enjoyment also cannot. Since wisdom and knowledge cannot help, then what about labor? Sorry, the third session says all the toil is vanity. Hey, I have ideas. I want to build my career, and that's all vanity. Yes, Solomon gave many reasons in these sessions why all the toil is vanity and a tracing after wind. And one of the reasons is because man will die. What does he get from all the toil under the sun? He ends up empty-handed. Another reason is that he doesn't even know who to hand over the things with all his labor. What is he who wears? If he gets what you labor for without laboring, what is the meaning of that? He who labors receives, and he who does not labor also receives. Verse 21, Solomon said, "This also is vanity and a great evil. Not only is it just vanity, which is meaningless, but it is a great evil, which is worse than vanity." Let's think what Solomon said is really true. There is a Chinese saying, "The father spies, the son spills, the grandson sells, and his son bags." Why? The first generation is very hardworking and rich, making a lot of money, but they can't pass it on. This is because they only inherit the property, not the virtues and the diligence of the previous generation. Isn't it evil that such a generation will inherit what you have earned through your labor? It will only produce a prodigal son. The last session, I think, is the most meaningful. It's from verse 24 to verse 26. Solomon presents two kinds of people in these verses. One was the sinner, and the other was the one who was pleasing God. Firstly, verse 23 are all about the situation under the sun, without God, far away from God. But Solomon mentioned God above the sun from verse 24 to verse 26. He mentioned that all the labors, enjoyment, and eating and drinking are from the grace of God. We need to see that they are from the hand of God, the good will of God. Only when we see God, then we will have real happiness and truly understand how to enjoy life. Verse 26 says, "For to the man who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy, but to the sinner he gives travail, together and to heap up, that he may give to him who pleases God. This also is vanity and a tracing after wind." Obviously, there are two kinds of people. Which type of people do you want to be? Needless to say, everyone would choose to be a person pleasing to God. What are the characteristics of those who pleases God? Brothers and sisters, the letter to Hebrews chapter 11 verse 6 says clearly, "Without faith it is impossible to please God." Lastly, I'd like to say to brothers and sisters that living above the sun is the life of faith that pleases God. As long as we trust in God, we can be the one who pleases God. God will give us everything we need. Not only do we lack nothing, but our life also is the most enjoyable, the most blessed. Brothers and sisters, that's all for my sharing. All we need to do is to stay still and meditate before the Lord. Let's give thanks to Him and respond to His love. Let us tell Him how you like to live a life above the sun. Brothers and sisters, the time you spend alone with the Lord is the most precious. You need to have enough time to enjoy His closeness and His presence. Your spirit will not be happy until you experience Him deeply and enjoy Him. Because God created you for Himself. You are created for Him. Brothers and sisters, we have to go back to the fountain. May the Lord bless you.